Right, okay. Junior and senior, thank you very much. Did you coordinate ties before you came out? It works. It
Sunderland, of course.
Sunderland, of course. Were you there last night?
No.
No, you weren't.
Watched it on the television.
Just watching. Okay, I'm going to start with Peter Junior. Did you get Peter Junior?
I used to get Peter.
You used to get
or Little Peter.
Now he's his own man, obviously. You're just Peter Vardy. Tell me about what you do, what you were handed on, and what you've gone on to do.
We lived at the forecourt in Huntley Spring, which quite a lot of people will know, and grew up on the forecourt as Dad's family did as well. So the dealership was only about 10 yards outside the front door of the dealership of the house. So quite often I got in from school, the customers in the house having tea, quite often having my tea. So we used to get used to that happening. And then obviously the company grew very quickly in the northeast. I went away to school and university. And in the holidays, when I started when I was about 14, I served the petrol to start with. That was the kind of the family tradition, I think, serving petrol. And then sold my first car when I was 15. Couldn't do the test drive, obviously, but that was quite exciting. And then worked all the way through the departments, and to the point I said when I was 16, look, Dad, can I have a job? And Dad said, no, you can't have a job. I said, well, what do I need to have a job to get in the motor trade? He said, well, you need to finish your A-levels. So I said, right, I'll do my A-levels. And then I did that. So the company was quite big at that point. There must have been about 3,000 people. So I said, well, can I get a job now? So I would like to be a salesman. No, you need to go and do university. So I did university. And then I got a degree. I went to Strathclyde, so I got a degree after 3 years. I said, look, can I get a job now? He says, no, I've got no jobs. I'm thinking, you've definitely got some jobs, I know that. You need an honours degree. And I thought, yeah. So I did my honours degree, and then I came back and went back to be a salesman. And then I worked all the way through till Dad sold the company in 2006. And then carried Dad's boxes out when we sold Reg Vardy on that Friday night. And then I started straight away wanting to start my own company. I've learned from Dad. Could I start a world-class motor group? So I started that the following Monday.
Did he tell you why he kept saying no along the way early on?
No, I think he was just trying to wind me up. No, obviously it was brilliant. I mean, the amount of things I learned, I went and studied marketing and HR and all the kind of things that I now use in the business. So at the time I didn't necessarily agree, but looking back now, it was a good idea.
We should have sent him to the finishing school that James went to. he managed to get 22% margins, and we're on 2.
What would you say you learned from your dad, and what would you say you learned, not from your dad, along the way, along your own journey?
I think it's a bit of a tradition in the family of a work ethic. We work very hard. And I think the benefit I've had, and I suppose Dad's the same, what we do is a job we enjoy. It's a hobby as well. So selling cars is just great fun. So I learnt all the basics all the way through the business from Dad. I always got put with people who were very, very good. So I always learnt off the people who were the best, and I always got stretched in every job. So having said that, nothing quite prepares you for starting your own company when you don't have an email account. I remember when we bought the first dealership. And so I said, we bought this dealership in Perth in Scotland. So I said, right, Dad, that's great. So I said, what do I do now? He says, well, I'll leave you to crack on. And I'm thinking, I don't really know what crack on means. I didn't really know how to do anything. So I turned around. It was one of the best stories of working with Dad. First day we'd opened a new business in Perth. I remember looking around, and Dad was on the forecourt in his suit, sweeping the forecourt for me. And I stood in the front door, and I realised then the kind of work ethic as a family we had, that, he just did pretty well selling his company. From day one, the example was, you're on the front door, you're doing the basics of the job, and you lead by example. And I think that's what I've tried to do in the new company, is to have no hierarchy at all. We've got a very muck-in culture, so it's a smaller company, much smaller. But in terms of people working hard and doing the basics, it's worked.
He took the sweeping brush off me and threw the trade plates at me and said, there's a demonstration you have to do.
I did do that.
So we had to sell our first car. No, it was different, actually. I had 6,000 people. I had somebody to do everything. And then we had nobody to do anything. So we bought this dealership, the pair of us, in an hotel in Perth. And then we said, well, when will you take over? I said, well, the first of next month, it'll be all right. And then we walked out and said, we haven't any solicitors, we haven't any accountants, we have no staff. How on earth are we going to do this? But, you just get on and do it.
You have to.
So, yeah.
And did you have any choice about what you wanted to do? You sold your first car when you were 15. Was that all you'd ever wanted to do? Were there other things, other potential things that you think, I might do that.
No, I always wanted to do it. I used to come home from school when I was 4 or 5 and walk straight in Dad's office and sit on the chair on the end when he was in meetings. And I kind of always enjoyed the buzz of a dealership because they are good fun, very people-focused businesses. So I kind of always wanted to do it. And then I knew the company was getting sold 2 or 3 months out in 2006. So I'd already started writing out what I was going to do. And I kind of planned what I wanted to do. So I remember we were talking last night. I was sitting in the dining room at home actually writing out how I would try and run the business and what it would stand for and what its principles would be. So no, I haven't really thought about doing anything else.
And that's all you've 10 years you've grown this business?
Yeah, 10 years in June. So it's got 800 people, 11 sites, got 12th one getting built. It's got the biggest Land Rover dealership in Britain. We've got some big stats. The guys have done an incredible job. So yeah, it's been good. I mean, we've done steady growth. I kind of doubled the size of the company every 3 years. And it's now getting to the size where we could add 1 or 2 dealerships on every year now and got the infrastructure to be able to do that. So, yeah, it's been good.
How often did you phone them early on?
I phone them every day.
Still does.
Always have?
Every day, yeah. Because there's always something that you got 99% sure you should do, but it's still best to ring somebody and say, look, I'm about to do this. What do you think of that idea? Or, I just want to run something by you. Or I heard one story once about you need a lightning rod. You need somebody in your life you can just... when you download, somebody needs to be there, and it needs to not be the people that work for you. So, I think Dad's been a bit of that for me in terms of just being able to download on somebody and then straighten your face and get back out again. Because when folks know, starting a company, when you've got some very, very good competition, it's tough, and you have some dark moments. I remember once, I was telling the lads the other day, actually, I drove down to the northeast once, and you won't remember this, but I was pretty broken. I was thinking, I was losing money for 2 years. I was thinking, I actually knew how to do this in Peter Vardy days. I used to make a lot of money for my dad's company. I'm thinking, I can't have lost it all of a sudden. So I remember coming down to see Dad, and I said, right, Dad, I'm having real trouble. I'm really struggling. So what do you think I should do? And Dad says, well, you should turn yourself around, get back in the car, and drive back up to Scotland. Which was fantastic advice, actually, because all it told me to do was it gave me the confidence that I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't need to come down and bleat and pour out my heart and everything. Dad knew what I was doing. Give us the confidence to get back up there and sort it out.
And did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It's been a bit rocky in terms of starting a company, as everyone knows. It's not very profitable to start with. And I just listened to some of the talks today. I put quite a lot of investment in the beginning. I employed an HR director as my third employee. And I remember Dad saying, well, can you not manage yourself? I said, no, I can. I said, I just want to put the HR rules in at the beginning. And so we've got and still do have a very big infrastructure. So we've got 100 people in the head office for running 11 dealerships. And to put that in context, most people would have about 3 or 4 people in the head office for running 10. So to have 100 is clearly a massive end of the spectrum. But the idea was to take the things that people were bad at off them and let them be particularly good at what they're already good at most of the time. So we would take HR, and we'd take finance, and we'd take web management and advertising all away and let the guys be good at what they're doing. And so if you look at our performance per site, the average dealership in the UK makes £80,000, £100,000. Our average is 1.1 million. And I think it's because the guys that run the site focus on one thing, it's what they're good at all the time, and I take everything else away. So the economies of that model, playing to strengths, has definitely worked.
And you say the first 2 years, rocky. What would you say the big game changers were when sometimes success can creep up on you? When did you think, I've done something right here, this has turned a corner?
I don't know the motor trade is different from anything else, but there's a set of basics that you would do in each department. If you do the same thing every single day, you tend to get the results. I think I was doing all the right things every single day. I think it just wasn't building up and momentum. I think I had to keep sticking to what I knew the right thing was to do, make sure I didn't go off course, keep it on repeat. And actually doing that, the business started to improve. So there was no magic formula. It was just doing the basics every single day, and eventually it came right.
And so you're going where you want at the minute.
Yeah.
The old cliche question, where do you see yourself 5 years' time, 10 years' time? Have you got a bigger game plan, bigger ambitions?
Yeah, I mean, the ethos of the company when I started up was to create the best place to work and the best place to buy. And I still am, determined to have the best motor group in the world. And we've been fortunate that Reg Vardy was exceptional. I can say that without being biased. I know most of the motor retailers about it. It was a very, very good company. And there's also some exceptional ones all over the world. So I try and go and see them. Dad and I try and go and see who's the best. And always try and benchmark how can we be as good as those guys, and then what would it take to get even better. So that's been the philosophy of the company. focusing on colleague engagement, and then customer delight, which we call customers' guests, and then give them something back. So we never had a profit, any words about money in the vision of the company or objectives. It's all been about being the best we could be. So being the Sunday Times top 100 companies, won lots of awards around customer service, because that's our differentiator in Scotland. And then giving back, we give 10% away to charity, and we get all the colleagues in the business engaged in that. So on your third day working for us, you are mandated to go out and help a charity. And if you don't, I pay your wage for the rest of the month and let you go, let you leave straight away. Which happened to one technician, he wouldn't go out, so I said, I'll pay you a month's wage and you can leave. Because if you don't understand what we're about at the beginning, you're not going to fit in here.
Do people think that when you tell them that? Do they initially think, is this a trick?
No, I think no, because the other thing that happens on day one, when you on a day one induction, we try and put our money where the mouth is. So if giving back's a big core value for us, which it is, we've got a kind of blank check. It's got £100 written on it, and the colleague on day one can write whichever charity they want to give money to. And I think when they do that, in their head they're thinking, right, well, there's something close to home that means a lot to me. It might be a family issue or something. So when they do that, and it's mentioned in recruitment, by the time they get to the third day and doing something, it's part of their culture. So if we ever have manufacturers up to do presentations, the colleague talks to the manufacturer about giving back. They don't talk to them about sales numbers. And it's helped to retention. Definitely helped retention. I didn't do it for retention or engagement, but it's definitely helped. So this year we sponsored I've sponsored a child for every colleague this year in Africa. So it's paid for it for a year, as long as they write to every child. We're building schools in Africa and loads of things, which is a huge deal for us, because obviously 10% when you're doing quite well, it's quite a nice pot to play with. So we're spending a lot of money looking after a lot of different people all over Scotland.
You've got to be careful, I suppose, balancing two passions: a passion to achieve, a passion to be ambitious, a passion to make money, with a passion to give stuff back. Mm-hmm. How do you strike that balance?
Well, I'm only giving 10% away, so if I can't make it work with the other 90, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. It does work, doesn't it? I mean, we talked about when I started, I'd given 10% away from the start because I was losing money. So 10% of the loss was obviously nothing. But then 10% of it when I just got started, you were seeing the money go away and thinking, crack, I don't know if I can afford that. But then, but it's worked. You say so, Dan?
But the business principle is to look after the staff.
Yep.
To look after the customers, to get the processes right and deliver exceptional value for all of them. And at the end, out pops profit. Whereas if you get up every morning thinking, I need to make money, you actually do the wrong things. You take the shortcuts to making profit that actually don't build a sustainable business. So if you do the right things every day, then as long as you know what you're doing, and obviously we've done it for 40 odd years, the out the end pops the profit, and then there's our feeling that we need to give it back. So it's our guys or Peter's guys, because I don't run the business. I'm here to mentor Peter. I don't get involved in running the dealerships. But it's a culture that is running through the company, and it works. Everybody likes it, and it's not about let's make as much money for Peter. How much money can we make for the boss? We're building an organisation, or he's building an organisation that has a social conscience, and folks like that. The customers like it, the staff like it, and obviously the beneficiaries like it.
Well, of course. Mm-hmm. And you say you run it with as little hierarchy as possible. Yeah. There must be some.
There is. To give you an idea of that philosophy, though, so on the 2nd of June, I always wanted to do this since I started the company, and on the 2nd of June, which is the day I started the business, 2nd of June this year, I turned the whole company into a partnership. So I'm giving all the colleagues in the business ownership of the company with me, because we've got a strapline of your car company, and I think the way people are now, it's interesting, we do an interview, people interview you now as the employee to make sure you're socially conscious, what you're doing for the environment, and I think it's the strange world we're living in where people expect a lot more of their employer and a lot more to be part of what is happening or why it's happening. They want to understand the why of a company. So we're trying to make sure that, well, if you've got an opinion, you can help run it then. And so we talked about this about 6 months ago. We ran programs for getting every single colleague group together, saying it was your business, would you run it like this? And they all say no. You try not to take offense at that point, and you try and get their ideas off them. So we've had, I've read every one, we've had 2,000 ideas. Some of them are not worth reading, and some of them are fantastic. So we've been through all of those. We've made a lot of changes. So we've got the colleagues helping run the business with me from the 2nd of June. In that hierarchical structure, we have guys who run the businesses, and then the whole of our head office, which is called Vardy Central's philosophy, is how can I serve you better? So you have a totally different philosophy about checking up on dealerships, which we don't do. We have finance director, HR director, we have some directors, but the general philosophy is to support the sites.
When you phone him every day, is it usually, guess what I've done today, this is what's happened today, or what do you think about what's happened today? Is there a sort of a rhythm to the call?
It's the second one. What do you think of this? And, what would you do? I mean, we chat because obviously we're very close. And, the chip that's in me is in him as well. But that's how it works. And I'm interested in what he's doing, very keen to support him. But it's not that we're checking up and he's not ringing and saying, I think how many cars I sold today, I think how much money I've made today.
He gets the numbers anyway.
I get the numbers every day. So I know exactly what's going on. But that's just to support him.
Brilliant. For now, Peter Vardy, formerly Peter Vardy Jr. Brilliant. So, that's really impressive. And feel free to chip in when you want, because he did. So Peter, obviously everybody remembers Reg Vardy. Everybody knows the Vardy name. I had a very interesting chat with you a couple of weeks ago, last week, and you said something that made me think. And you said, I don't see it on the names of shirts as much. I don't see it in the cars. The name will die. I say that because we've had all these celebrity deaths recently. And I talk about, not you, not today. Hear me out. I work in the BBC, so we talk about this kind of stuff on air a lot. Val Doonican died, who was a hero of mine. He used to be on Saturday, every Saturday night for about 20 years. I thought he was wonderful, lovely, great, wholesome family entertainer. And he died, and people I work with went, who was that? Who's he? And it made me think, what is that? All fame means nothing. And you said that to me. That got me thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, we had 100 dealerships. We had 6,000 people. We sold 2 million cars that were ride around with a Reg Vardy sticker on. We sponsored Sunderland Football Club for a few years. And the name was well known. But I sold it 10 years ago, and the deal was that they couldn't use the name, because I didn't want my dad's name on the garages if I wasn't running them. Just a value thing. So they took the name down within 12 months. So now there's no Reg Vardy dealerships. There's nobody wearing the gold V that we all wore in our lapels. They've all gone to work for somebody else. If you see a Reg Vardy rear window sticker on the back of the car, I nearly drive into the back of the car in excitement. So in a few years, it'll all be gone. And, it'll be like Val Doonican, who was that? And there's a few of us who'll remember buying Rolls Royces and things like that. Oh, talking about Rolls Royce. Talking about the limousine earlier on. Les Bell, Stephen Bell's father, Entrepreneurs Forum director, he bought a Rolls Royce from us. And he picked up a very proud moment, his first Rolls Royce. And he drove back down from Houghton Spring to Middlesbrough, where he lived. Pulled into Linthorpe Road, and the traffic lights turned to red. And he thought, oh, dash, I'm going to have to stop. So he stopped the car, and then there was these youths, traffic lights, and they were a bit unsavoury. and he thought, these traffic lights are never going to change. And the boys started to walk towards the car. And he thought, I haven't had this thing 5 minutes. I'm going to get scratched. They're going to rip the lady off the bonnet and everything. So he was quite quick-witted, and he put the window down. He says, what do you think, lads? I won it on the lottery. And they said, whoa, great. The fact that he got it for nothing, the fact he paid for it was a downside. Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. We'll change the subject. I just thought it was relevant.
But you say you still get a little buzz, a twinge of a buzz when you see that sticker.
Yeah.
But you're aware that there's got to be more to it than just the name. There's more to a legacy.
Yeah, I mean, it's what have we left behind? And, you know, I haven't left the garages, well, I've left the garages behind. I've left 6,000 people behind. They're all got different jobs and everything. So what is it that we're going to leave? What will be the legacy? And that's why when I sold the business, I think everyone expected me to start again. You know, let's build another motor group. Let's start again. Let's have another go. I was only 59, so, you know, relatively young. And I thought, no, I'd actually had the best car business. Ford Motor Company reckoned it was the best car business in the world, but never mind. I still liked it. And I thought it was good. And I thought, I'll never be able to repeat that. It took me 40 years to get it to there. I'll never be able to repeat that. So I would really like to do something in social action. What could I do to put some of the money that I'd made back into society? And that's why I ended up in the activities I'm doing now.
Well, let's talk about them. So we've got Safe Families for Children. How did that evolve? Where did it grow from?
Well, just quickly, I started the foundation in 1989. When I floated the company, I put some of the shares into the foundation. And what I wanted to do was, I knew somebody that was a foster parent, and she was heartbroken when the kids left the foster care. So I said, well, I went to see Sunderland and Durham Local Authority, and I said, look, these kids need a home. They're leaving foster care, and there's no home to go to. There's no job. They haven't even finished their education, and they're more or less out in the street. So I said, I'll build some accommodation, 8 and 10 flats at a time, and I'll have sort of pseudo-parents downstairs, and we'll look after them. And they said, look, you keep selling cars, Bonnie lad, and we'll look after the kids. So I ended up, as most of you know, building schools. And I thought, well, that's really giving kids the best possible start in life if we can give them a very good education. So Emmanuel College, King's Academy, Trinity, Bede in Blythe. We built all of those at the same time as we run the company. So that seemed to work well. But when I left, Margaret Barber, Sarah Nicholson of Vaux Breweries and myself were invited to go to the Young Offenders Institute in Barnard Castle. And so I asked the governor, how many of the guys in here are ex-foster care? And she said 60%. 60% of the 450 guys in there were ex-foster care. So I said, well, where do they go when they leave? Well, they don't really leave. They get about as far as that roundabout and come back because they have no home to go to, no job, no family, no future. So they just come back into prison. And, you know, they'll go from a Young Offenders Institute to an adult prison. I thought, God, that's shocking. So I bought the ex-bishop's palace at Hexham, and I've got 40 guys in there who are drug and alcohol addicted and these sorts of guys. And we have a furniture refurbishment factory, we've got gardening teams and all that sort of thing. And many of you have had a Bettle leaflet stuffed through your door saying, can we do your garden? That's what that is. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. For those guys, they really sort their lives out. But there's 40 in there. There's 7,000 a year leaving prisons in this region. So you think, oh, hang on. And as a business person, and there's loads of business folks, and what I'm appealing to the entrepreneurs in this room is to have a bit of a social conscience. And I know a lot of you are doing great things, so thanks for all you're doing. But I think you need to be aware that you can actually make a massive difference in society at the moment. Because from a business point of view, you look at things differently to local authorities and government. So I looked at this and thought, well, what's the cause of this? The cause is, for most, is the breakdown of the family, children being taken into care, multiple care homes, 20, 30 multiple care homes by the time they're 16 or 18-year-old, and then they end up in prison. There are 93,000 children in care as we sit here today. 43% of them will serve a prison sentence before they're 21. And 70% will reoffend within 12 months. Now, the government's answer, we better build a few more prison places. Can we have some more children's homes? Can we get more foster parents? Business folks like you and me go and say, hang on, man, let's go back to the cause. Let's find a solution. The solution is stop the children going into care in the first place. Where for a car salesman from Hortonley Spring, that was a bit of a tall order. But, you know, like Peter says, we tour the world looking for what good looks like. So there was nobody in the UK. I mean, there's Children's Society, there's all sorts of folks doing bits and pieces. There's nobody doing anything on scale in the UK to stop children going into care in a big way. So I ended up in Chicago saying Safe Families for Children. And we're running out of time. So it was a volunteer organization started by a child psychologist that offers families 3 sorts of help. They'll take the child into their home for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, whatever it needs, to give the mother some respite, give the kid a bit of break as well. Family friends that act as pseudo-parents, aunts, uncles, that'll come alongside a mother that's in crisis and just calm things down and do whatever's needed. And then resource friends. And everybody in this room could be a resource friend. If we need something, pushchair, carry cot, clothes, beds, toys, whatever, we've all got stuff in our lofts or in our garages that we could say, well, if somebody in the next street needs it, you know, let me know, I'll take it round. So, Jackie's sitting here, Keith, your brother, came with the kids' clothes. Keith Miller, he had 2 daughters and they'd grown out the clothes. Well, there's all this designer gear. So he brought it down. He says, here you are. So there's kids walking around Scotswood Road and biker and everything in this flash gear that they wonder where they thought was knocked off. Not from Keith. Anyway, so there's these 3 sorts of volunteers. They've helped, quickly, 25,000 families in the United States, and 93% of those families are still together. They've reduced by 50% the number of children in care in Chicago. The results are phenomenal, and it's all through volunteers. So I brought it back here, rolled it out across the Northeast local authorities. And then I got a call from Ian Duncan-Smith. He wanted a bit of help on Motability, the car scheme. So I said, well, I'll help you with Motability if you'll listen to what I'm doing now. So I told him about Safe Families for Children. We did a deal there. I got an hour of his time, he got an hour of mine. And they ended up flying out to Chicago to see it. He says, this sounds absolutely amazing. So he gave us a bit of help. He matched the money that I'd put into it through his education innovation fund. And we're now in Nottingham, Derby, Lincoln, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, Cardiff, Edinburgh, as well as the Northeast. We are in partnership with 23 local authorities. Ian Duncan-Smith says you'll never get local authorities to partner with you. They will never partner with an organisation like you. I said, look, I've sold cars all my life. The deal a local authority gets is they get it free for a year. They get 300-400 volunteers. They pay £60,000 a year for the next 2 years, and we reduce the number of children going into care by 10, 15 and 20%. Middlesbrough say we've saved 1.4 million. We'll save 4 million in the next 2 years by an investment of 60,000 and an army of volunteers. So it is the best thing I've seen. So we are planning to be in 75 local authorities within 5 years, 140 local authorities within 10 years, 100,000 volunteers, and reduce the number of children going into care by 25 or 30%. It will save the government £2 billion a year. And that's but that's every year. But that's not the motivation. Our motivation is, can we try and help families stay together? Can we strengthen families? And early intervention is the only way to do it. So everybody believes me when I say we're going to have 100,000 volunteers. I suppose because we scaled something up in business, they think, oh, well, so I talk to ministers and everybody, and I mention 100,000, and they say, well, that sounds all right. I say we're going to reduce the number of children going into care by 20 or 25%. Ian Duncan-Smith said, oh, dear me, don't say that, they'll think you're mad. He said, but 1%'s a big number. I said, business people don't start with an objective of 1%. Business people have big, hairy, audacious goals, and 25% sounds like a good number to me. And, 2 billion a year, and the life-changing in all these. So then that's gone on, and then I got a call from the probation service. Would I get involved in privatising the probation service? I thought, dear me, so, another deep breath. But we've taken over the probation service in Durham and Tees Valley, but it's taken over as a charity. I mean, Sodexo and everybody trying to make money out of this. And then we've just had a call a couple of weeks ago from Michael Gove's department. They're going to change the prison system in the northeast, and would we get involved in the prison system? And the plea is to all the entrepreneurs in this room at the moment, have you got a business that could set up a department within a prison? Have you got something that you could say, well, I could start a branch in the prison. We could train guys. I mean, Timpsons do it, don't they? You know, with the shoe repairs and everything. Or could we look at, can we, you know, have a commitment to try and help guys coming out of prison? If these guys have been in care, in prison, they're coming out to absolutely nothing. Through the probation service, we'll find them a home, we'll give them some job training and all that sort of thing. Can you help with any of those sorts of things? So, you know, we're talking about changing the world. We have to change the northeast first. We have to change our town. We have to change our attitude. We have to change ourselves to have a real compassion to try and help folks that are going through a crisis. And, you know, I got 1 O-level at school. I had to leave because they couldn't teach me anything. And I started serving petrol with my dad and washing the floors, sweeping the floors and everything. And I just think, you know, we don't know our own abilities till we seize the opportunities that we get. And we all get opportunities, but we say, oh no, I can't do that, I can't do that. Get stuck in, because entrepreneurs are going to be the folks that solve out some of this social action and the social issues that our country faces. The government have not got the answer. They have not got the money. So it needs innovation, and it needs, you know, like I'm raising volunteers to do it. So I commend it to you. If anybody's interested in getting involved, you know, Susan was working with me, that worked the Entrepreneurs Forum. She went to see an employer the other day, and they said, we have staff that would give 5% of their time, or 2% of the time. Was it 2% or 5%? Shout up. 5 days of the year they can volunteer. So could they volunteer with Safe Families for Children? We get loads of inquiries. The house needs painting. They need someone doing it at the house. You know, Peter's company does it. They go and send a team in on a Sunday and blitz the house and put a load of furniture in and everything else like that. And, you know, it could be the corporate and social responsibility angle. And, you know, and then we're going to email them if we need a pram, a pushchair, a carry cot or something, and they'll whistle around the office and give us whatever we need. So there's a real pleasure. The families that we're helping don't half appreciate this. They end up going to social services, and they're frightened to death the child's going to be taken off them. I nearly forgot. I've got a video. Can we show?
Got a case study, I think. Yeah.
There's a family we've just been helping, and we'll just show you this. Just see the start and the finish, and it's only, you know, a very short piece. So, you know, there's hundreds. I mean, we've just had 1,000 bed nights through the volunteers, and there's 3,000 volunteers so far. Just opening up their homes, coming alongside families that's in need, and, you know, we need to get communities to be the solution to community problems and not ask the government to do everything.
Or the council, the local authorities, but you still have to work with them. What's that challenge like?
Is anybody from a local authority here?
Leave now.
It's extremely difficult. You know, you can see in the northeast here at the moment, we're trying to have devolved regional, you know, and getting the private sector to work with the public sector is a nightmare. I'm winning them over because what we're doing is so needed by the folks, but it's very hard work.
What's hard about it? What's the toughest bit?
Well, I think when you're a used car salesman and you go and see the local authority and you say, I've got your solution to children in care, they think, oh, hang on, you know. But you know, we do win them over because what we're doing is having an amazing impact. But it's getting them to take the risk that they're working with volunteers. You know, how's that all going to work? And it works well for the volunteer. It works well with the family that need the help because they love the ideas come from somebody. And Ian Duncan Smith asked Dave Anderson, the guy that started all this, he says, what happens when you get sued? Because everybody gets sued in America. And 25,000 cases, they've never been sued once. And Dave Anderson, the child psychologist, says, well, why would anybody sue us? A mother comes and says, I need some help. What sort of help would you like? Would you like to take your kids for a few days? Would you like somebody to come alongside you? Would you like some furniture or clothes or anything like that? But mind, you're in charge. You're the mother. You're in charge. It's your child. We're only here to help. You have to take your child back. We're not trying to take your child away. So we're not like the local authority that wants to take the child away because they're scared to death. But he said, I think the thing is, nobody's getting paid. So there's nothing to sue. You know, you only get sued if you're actually getting paid for someone you're not delivering. So the fact that a volunteer comes and says, I'm with you for as long as you want. You tell us when you don't need me, and we'll go home. So it's just amazing what is being achieved. So it's really interesting to see scale up. And obviously scaling up with volunteers is a little bit different to scaling up with people you're paying, because when you shout jump, they're not as how high, you know, as they used to be. And you have to persuade them to come and volunteer. We train them as if they're foster carers, so we go through all the DBS checks and the training and everything else like that. But there is a heart in the nation at the moment that things are wrong and things need to be put right. And people are volunteering because they see the need to do something because we're in a downward spiral.
And yet the business world, sometimes from the outside looking in, people think of it as a mercenary world where it's just me, I must fight for what I've got. Did some people think you were going a bit mad when you, I know we've interviewed, I don't know if you know Brian Burney, I'm sure you've seen his buses going all over the northeast, daft as a brush, and they help cancer patients. He was a multi-millionaire. His own family thought he was going a bit mad. Did you have any of that? Did you, initially, did you think, I wonder if Dad's getting in a bit too deep? He's going to Chicago.
I was with him in Chicago, so I saw that bit. But no, yeah, when you talk about trying to raise volunteers and deal with local authorities, I thought that was going to be an impossible task, if I'm honest.
But now?
But he's done it, so I shouldn't be surprised. So.
But you know, an entrepreneur doesn't give up, you know, and we're all entrepreneurs, so we have this passion to succeed, and we find a way around. We don't take no for an answer, and you know, if we can energize the entrepreneurs in this region to build their business and do great things, you know, but as Peter was saying, it's no use trying to give stuff. I mean, I've had a few folks come, I want to really get involved with charity. I says, is your business profitable? No, not yet. I says, well, come back and tell us when it's profitable, because then you can start giving. You can't give what you haven't got. Yeah. So don't start getting carried away. You have a responsibility to your family, the staff and everything else to make that a success. And the 10% idea is great, you know. I mean, you just look across the world, Warren Buffett, you know, all the folks that are giving their wealth away is having major impacts around the world. You know, Bill and Melinda Gates are doing wonderful things.
The celebrity atheist Richard Dawkins, he talks about the selfish gene. Any altruistic act is ultimately selfish. I don't give a crap whether it is or not. I don't believe that, actually. I mean, it is rewarding. It is what you do here must be fantastic. Incredibly rewarding.
It is. I mean, it's pushing water uphill sometimes, but you know, it was with the schools. I was criticised like mad for building the schools. And they said, why do you do it? And I said, because I know what it'll look like when I get it finished. And I think that's when we're building businesses, we have to have that aim, that we have a vision for what it will look like when we've got it finished.
Why do you think they asked you that? Is that, again, does that come back to the culture difference between, you know, America have a different philosophy? Everyone over there thinks they could be president one day, whereas here it's a little bit more cynical.
Yeah, well, I mean, the schools, though, I was a car salesman building schools. You know, I talked to David earlier on, you know, how...
What does he know?
I had placards around the offices in Durham and, you know, carry on in Doncaster. Keep selling cars, leave us alone with the schools. But, you know, the schools was a tremendous experience, 20 years with the schools. And from my perspective, I was asked by Margaret Thatcher and Kenneth Baker to build schools. And I said, but I only got one O-level at school. I left at 16. So that's not you know, you haven't done your research. And they said, we have. You've turned around failing businesses. Could you turn around failing schools? I think, oh, turn around a failing school. You need outstanding leadership, inspirational teachers, supportive parents, well-disciplined kids. I think, well, that's not rocket science. That's not too difficult. If you set out, that's what you're going to do, and obviously had a vision of what the academic and everything was going to achieve. But from a business point of view, HR, finance, and IT. I'll look after those, get people to look after, and leave the teachers to do teaching and learning. And that's where education fails in the UK. We ask our headmasters and headmistresses and principals to be HR specialists, finance specialists, and IT specialists, and if they get any time left, they'll do the teaching and learning. If we can have everybody working to their strengths, and if you're thinking of taking a school over or being an academy, make sure you've got the checkbook. Take the checkbook, because you know that controls what goes on in the school. 80% salaries, but you know you have to have control, because you know HR is all over the place in a school. You know they've got poor teachers and they just move them sideways. They just bring somebody else in, and then the budget doesn't work. You know they have to get rid of the poor teachers, and that's what we did. Anyway,
have we got time for a couple of questions?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question actually to Peter. I think that's absolutely admirable.
Oh, we just got a mic. Just running down. We've got a mic there. In the
I promise you.
Mine's a request. I'm going to ask every single person here to stand up and applaud this gentleman, because I think that is admirable. You've saved our
Come on,
families.